WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Was at a rally yesterday, and I saw some footage of this, and there's the shot, and he goes down, and my first reaction was, oh, good bump there, good sell. And then they rushed over to him, and they propped him up there, and he like pumped to the crowd, and you could see him bleeding from his ear, and I'm going, I can't believe they made him get color on free TV. Like they didn't even save this for a pay-per-view or something. I joke about it because, this is not my religion, and it's a long presidential campaign, and you got to find the humor in it. Of course, it is heartbreaking for the person who was the two people who were actually killed at this incident and the people who were seriously injured. And Donald Trump got a legitimate injury here, so not making light of that. But, he got up and he's like fighting Secret Service who's trying to drag him away. He's like trying to fight them and fist bump to people out there at the rally, which is a baby face move.
That is a baby. It's a big time baby face move.
He clearly wants to be a baby face here. And it seems to be working. I mean, like I said, it's a long presidential campaign. If you're like me and you're like the opposite of worshiping this government stuff, you got to find the lightheartedness into it. Being a pro wrestling fan, a former pro wrestling commentator, and a current pro wrestling podcaster, it's easy for me to do that. On the other hand, John, is it assassination season already? Because I still have my dementia patient Craps' pants decorations up around the apartment.
Oh man, we're in the thick of heat wave and assassination season. Yeah, you know what though, I do have to say, not doing it in a pay-per-view event and getting color like that, I'm a little suspect with the booking here.
Yes,
but I think he was at the right crowd. He got a big pop from the crowd when he did it. So
yes.
You look at the crowd reaction, right? It can't always be at a pay-per-view. It can be on live TV like that, and just a regular 2 p.m. show where nobody was really paying attention. And with the internet these days, you want this stuff to go viral. So hey, he's got a big viral moment.
This takes you back to when stuff would go down at the house shows.
Yes, right. Yeah, this was like it was like a house show because it was not on TV, and there's all these cell phone recordings of it, but not like the actual hard cam like footage per se.
Few hard cams, and I wonder if anybody went live with it as it was happening, or if it was just because it was a Saturday evening. I wonder if people just went later with it. But so we figured we'd mention that since it's all over the news this weekend. And he is, I believe that this is a shoot, no pun intended, or actually, yeah, pun intended. This is a shoot. He is a WWE Hall of Famer, isn't he?
Yes, he's a WWE. He is a WWE Hall of Famer, and he definitely took some nods from pro wrestling especially with the gigantic American flag and the fist pumping. That was very babyface.
Right. It's very, very babyface. Very well done. So it's Mercedes Mone from AEW. It's Bayley from WWE, who we talked about. They were out there hanging with Amazing Red in New York City. They are still friends. They bring the belt around with them out in public. We like that. Mercedes Mone showed some of the training that, when they're in New York City, apparently Amazing Red, they got to go just work out with this guy at his dojo. Do you remember Amazing Red at all? I don't think I do.
I'm not sure who this person is, but to be able to pull Mercedes Mone and Bayley, he must be pretty big within the industry, or at least done a lot to get them there. Pretty cool that they still have this friendship and relationship where they both work together and train with each other, especially with all of the, like, let's just say tribalism in pro wrestling right now, like with AEW or WWE. Like, it's good to see that Mercedes and Bayley don't do it at all, right?
Right. And it looks like Mercedes Mone is like running the gauntlet here at the dojo. Just like, sparring partner after sparring partner comes in. She's doing the running the ropes, the Irish whips, the reversals, the duck unders and everything, the somersault overs, and she's exhausted there at the end. And she and Bayley having a good time. There it is. Roll up finish. Did we get a pinfall there? We're not sure. This comes from Mercedes Moné's Instagram account. So this is her posting it herself. She obviously very proud of this stuff. Stand up, side Russian leg sweep. What are we doing here? Oh, she let him off the hook. He was ready for it. He was ready for a face plant right there. And then I guess at the end, they all have to move the ring around. Because that's what you do when you're training. So it keeps you humble a little bit, I guess, even though you're walking around with all that gold. You come to the dojo, you train with the other, just average Joes and Jills that are there, and you have some fun, post some pictures.
I do have to admit, it must be awesome, like, to go and be a student there, and then suddenly you're like with Mercedes Moné and Bayley, and you're training with them. Like, they're such mega stars. You're like, whoa. You pay. Obviously, it's a great way to get kind of like promotion around that facility to get people to go out and train there, because you're like, oh wow, you can run into huge stars.
And also, we noticed from that training montage there, I've talked about before that what really impresses me about the current women's division in the WWE is that the upper echelon wrestlers work fast. They're quick. They're sharp. They do things with speed. It looks like it has impact, which is another way of saying, as Becky Lynch used to say, train me like a man. Because Becky Lynch was coming up when there was still that diva cloud hanging over the women's division. Like, don't train me like I'm a lingerie model. Train me like a wrestler. Train me like a man. And, you could see Mercedes Moné in there, and I'm sure Bayley could do the same thing. We didn't happen to see her on the montage there, but, she's in there just training at man speed. They were doing full-on Irish whips, running the ropes, quick duck unders, leap over, somersaults, whatever it was you were doing,
It's a big compliment if you say they work like a man. Jim Cornette always says that. Oh, like she works like one of the dudes, which is a compliment, Yeah. So
because athletically, we know that on average men are stronger and faster than women.
Yeah.
Not all of them, of course, but if you on the outliers, of course, there are extremes, but the general overlap, men tend to be stronger than women. So if you get a woman in there who looks as strong and as fast as a man, you're like, oh, she's clearly way ahead of the curve there.
Yeah.
And so they're fantastic athletes. Fantastic athletes.
I'm thinking like Rhea Ripley. She's definitely stronger than your average man, probably. Most likely.
Yeah. And she's able to do some moves on some of the lighter men in WWE. We've seen that. Yeah, there it was. So this was great stuff for her. We're going to stay with the women here. Chelsea Green, who was runner-up in the Money in the Bank and had a great performance in it. It was fantastic if you saw that match. She went through 2 tables at the end, being pushed off the top of one of the high ladders in the ring out to 2 tables on the floor. But she was great even before that spot. She was interviewed once about her highlights of the wrestling world, and she went all the way back to Allin in 2018. This was the Throw Down the Gauntlet independent event that not only paved the way for AEW, but brought NWA's 10 pounds of gold title belt back to some prominence and wound up eventually birthing AEW. This was a huge show. Chelsea Green, how many of you out there know that Chelsea Green was involved in this show Allin in 2018?
Yeah.
I did not realize that. She was there. She said, I've never felt it since. Never feel the same way she did that night at Allin. But only had this many people. You had WrestleMania. It doesn't matter. We were all there for one goal, which was to make the show succeed. And it did just that, because now look, I just think that's going to go down as one of my favorite matches, no matter how many WrestleManias I'm in. She's saying this still as a WWE employee. I hope there's no heat on her for that. She was involved here. This comes to us. This original write-up here comes to us from WrestleZone. This is from Sporting News. They still have their 2018 recap of All In 2018 on their website. It was a fatal four-way: Madison Rayne versus, using her current WWE name, Chelsea Green, Britt Baker, Tessa Blanchard. I recognize all the names there from 2018. I recognize Madison Rayne from TNA Impact. I recognize Britt Baker from modern AEW, even though I don't watch very much of it. I recognize Tessa Blanchard because I've heard her her last name, Tully Blanchard's daughter, right?
Yep, you got it.
And that she wrestles for a number of promotions. And of course, I recognize Chelsea Green, who, if Tiffany Stratton did not win Money in the Bank, I was cheering for Chelsea Green to win it, just because her with the briefcase would be gold.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily her cashing it in and having a title reign, but just her with the briefcase would have been gold. She apparently had a great showing in this match. Loved it.
And this match here is really interesting because at one point, Tessa Blanchard was the real deal top women's wrestler in the world. She really was. She was TNA Impact's champ overall. Like, she was going to be the next champ for TNA. Or no, she wasn't champ for TNA. Men or women's, they did like a intergender thing where
really?
Won,
okay.
Yeah. She won their big title. She was in Mexico. She threw a hissy fit. She threw the title in the trash, that whole thing, like didn't want to come back to TNA, had the freak out.
Okay.
And ever since then, she had like some pretty bad allegations come out about her, like basically bullying people in the locker room, which isn't that big of a deal. Actually, it was pretty bad, like some of the stuff that was said. I won't get into it, but so she had some pretty bad allegations there. And then when she was in TNA and she refused to wrestle for them and had the title, I think she's kind of got blackballed from the industry. Like, a lot of people don't want to deal with her. So I think she was poised to be the next huge champ. I think she's wrestling in Mexico now or somewhere. She's still like around, but she just kind of fell off. At the end of the day, like, it's the people have to be hired, and people have to work with them. And if everybody hates you, then
Speaking of Mexico and new hires, have you heard of Stephanie Vacher? If I'm pronouncing her name correctly,
I have not, but I did see this article.
She's officially signing with WWE. It's apparently a big deal. She was NJPW champ. They're pictured with a couple of title belts. This is coming to us from WrestleZone as well. WWE wasted no time promoting her. She has her own Twixer account as well, listing WWE Superstars. She's apparently also Hispanic, luchador profesional chilena from Chile. And WWE is all in, no pun intended, from our previous story there, on pushing her to the moon. They had her pictures of her just like arriving in Mexico City, just walking through. She's got almost that Jade Cargill comic book hero character vibe to her. Like, if you're on WWE's Twitter account, this was from Saturday, July 13th, and they've retweeted this a few times. They are all in on her. Maybe not main roster yet, but they signed her, made a big deal out of it, and she's already in Mexico. Looks like $1 million if they put her on the main roster for the U.S. audience. I reckon this is another elite level women's wrestler that we could have in WWE. So good for her. Women's wrestling leading off cheap heat here from several different promotions. because women's wrestling is hot right now. And it deserves it. Let's move on to Drew McIntyre and some of his movie stuff. We talked about him being in Dave Bautista's new movie. He is now signed with Paradigm. This is a Variety telling us about this. Drew was kind of joking about it, saying, when one door closes, since I'm officially suspended by WWE, I'll be looking forward to exploring new opportunities. And, of course, you put that on social media and somebody clowns you immediately. Quick point, Pierce lifted your suspension. You work on Monday, buddy. So,
yeah.
People having fun with Drew McIntyre here. He looks like he has some acting chops, doesn't he? This is probably another good signing by this company here, Paradigm. Drew McIntyre, do you think he has a career to make a go of this? Real name is Andrew Galloway. Do you think he has a future in maybe not non-WWE stunt work and acting?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of these guys really transition well into acting because they are really like live perform actors. So if they can tape it, it's all pre-recorded, it's probably even easier for them.
Right.
And then
live
also
action stunt work is like tough. One take, no do-overs.
Yeah, he's got to get it right the first time. It's interesting. This company is gobbling up all these pro wrestlers. I don't know what their plan is. I don't know if there's one big movie they're going to do or what the deal is, because there's so many that are signing to them. And they make these press releases to let them know too.
Mm-hmm. And of course, if we're going to be on Twixer and showing Drew McIntyre's profile, I just have to. It's gratuitous, but heck, this is cheap heat. There's Drew McIntyre mocking CM Punk as his banner photo. And of course, his profile photo remains a bloody CM Punk. Excellent work, as always, Drew. Speaking of acting, we mentioned Kayla Braxton leaving WWE to pursue movies and saying that she already has her first job lined up. Here she is on Twixer, Kayla Becker. This is from just a few days ago, July 10th. That was Wednesday. Just wrapped up my first movie, and I got to do it alongside actors I've admired for years. One in particular I've always dreamed of meeting someday. Never in a million years did I think I'd one day be sharing scenes with them. And of course, she's keeping a little kayfabe there, not telling us exactly who it is, but she's got the picture there. She's posted outside the Talents trailers. So good for her. Just wanted to do a neat little follow-up there on Kayla Braxton. She was certainly competent at her job in WWE. Said she was moving on to other projects, and apparently one of those other projects is full speed ahead there. Let's go to some injury news. We mentioned Charlotte Flair earlier on the road to recovery, and that when she comes back, she is going to be stepping into a loaded top of the women's division in the WWE, no matter what brand she goes on, SmackDown or Raw. Tyler Bate, a very abrupt injury. He basically was just taken off TV very quickly, I think a week or two ago. Here he is on his Instagram showing people he tore his left pectoral major and tendon off the bone last week. This sounds like a Cody Rhodes type of pectoral injury that kept him out of action for a while and delayed the Cody Rhodes story, but turned out for the best for everybody involved, because we got extra bloodline that involves Sami Zayn, which the bloodline sorely needed. Roman Reigns needed it. The Uso brothers needed it. Solo Sikoa needed it. And Sami Zayn also needed it to get rid out of that, comedy jobber thing. So a similar injury to that, of course, wishing Tyler Bate a similar recovery to Cody Rhodes, where you can come back and basically be 100% or close enough to 100% where the average viewer and even the above average viewer can't tell. Left pectoral major and tendon. Of course, this looks like his right because he's taking a selfie in a mirror. That is his left arm there in the sling. If you were in a mirror, that would be your left arm as well. So we hope that he comes back soon. WWE making a big change to its commentary teams, mixing things up once again. This is the second or third times they've made changes, even in this calendar year here. Apparently, Pat McAfee is going to be splitting some time with non-WWE related sports stuff. So Joe Tessitore will do a similar thing, thereby adding some of his professional time to WWE ventures. We'll join the crew at some point this summer. We'll break down all you need to know, as well as new commentary lineups we'll be seeing before or after streaming SummerSlam with a Peacock subscription. He is an ESPN and ABC Sports veteran, will join ESPN as a commentator. And they mention here, considering Pat McAfee was pulled into an ESPN deal that requires him to split time, it only feels fair that WWE execs managed to poach someone from that company staff. So they're kind of like trading.
Yeah, right.
And maybe it'll work out like McAfee. Joe Tessitore will continue his duties. Do you know anything about Joe Tessitore? Do you remember him from any of his sports stuff? Apparently he can handle play-by-play, as he has in past professional sports gigs. Do you know him at all? Do you remember it all? Do you are
The
you
name
aware of any?
sticks out to me, but I don't
Okay.
really know anything about him.
Okay.
The biggest thing, and to be honest with you, I think that they should focus on is to continue this 2-man booth versus the 3-man booth.
Yes.
I know this article mentions that they like the 3-man booth better. I would strongly disagree. I feel like there's too much going on, and it's like to have the chemistry between two people is a lot easier than the third, and the third isn't even really necessary. It's not like I'm like very interested by what the third person's bringing.
How has the WWE commentary been from your standpoint, considering you've talked about it being subpar in the past? Has it improved recently, last year, along with some of the production changes WWE meant? Give us your assessment of which direction it's going into, and what do you think of it overall at this point?
Definitely better.
Okay.
I like the two because they switched to the 2-man booth, which is much better. I don't feel like, and I feel like the direct, like they have an understanding of what the talent can and can't do, and they're kind of allow them to do that. So
Okay.
Wade, like we always watch SmackDown, so
Yep.
I'm not sure if Cole and McAfee, Pat McAfee, are good. But I do know that they have been good in the past when I've heard them, but I don't really watch Raw a lot. But as far as SmackDown's concerned, very impressed with the way that Corey Graves now is good at the play-by-play thing, because Corey Graves doesn't have to show his personality that much. He just does the play-by-play thing. And then Wade Barrett doing color is really good.
Better role for Corey Graves or worse being play-by-play instead of color?
Play-by-play is way better. Way better.
He's adequate at that. He's passable as a real play-by-play guy.
Yeah. No, he keeps up with all the action. He always has really well.
Okay.
Like he's not botching things. He's not too lost. So he's done a good job. And this way, maybe Cole can kind of mentor him, which is interesting. I feel like Michael Cole got buried for years and years, and now everybody just seems to love him the last couple of years. But
I will say I like what you're saying about them not overusing Cole and not overloading the booth at any one time now with 2-man boots. I also like Corey Graves as play-by-play because with his pro wrestling background, he's very good at calling the maneuvers.
Yes.
And giving them either a good description or if they're supposed to be an almost trademarked catchphrase name that somebody is doing, he's calling them as well. But I think he's very, very sharp as to calling the wrestling action he sees in the ring. He might be better at that than anybody I've heard recently, or even years ago that I can remember.
Yeah, and that's what you want from the play-by-play guy, right?
Yep.
You just tell me what's happening as it's happening, and then the color guy can kind of add some, you know,
He's doing fills like a musician.
the color guy is supposed to add basically some interesting stuff to the robotic play-by-play guy. I like the robo play-by-play guy, and then the color guy that's a little goofy. You know, I think in pro wrestling it has a tendency to be goofy, but Wade Barrett isn't necessarily that goofy. He's pretty straight. I'm thinking Pat McAfee. He just says whatever, and then like that's his personality, and that's what he's good at. Just say whatever. People will kind of be like, okay, this is a pro wrestling color guy.
Very good. All right, EC3, NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. EC3. This comes to us from WrestleZone here. He's been defending the 10 pounds of gold all over the world. Successfully defended his championship 30 times. He's earned a place in NWA history. The only other person who has more successful title defenses than the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion is Nick Aldis, current WWE Smackdown GM. EC3 is also, I almost called him ECW there. EC3, Ethan Carter III, playing back to his gimmick in TNA Impact when he was supposed to be Dixie Carter's spoiled nephew.
What up, Jay Ren?
Yeah, so EC3 has been defending the champion. Oh, did we get a chat in there?
Yeah, he just said hi.
Oh, hello there to you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us at this very special Don't Bury the Lead live stream on a Sunday afternoon, New Jersey time on the East Coast here. Defending the championship in countries such as France, Italy, many more. He said he would like to wrestle into the mud pits at Uganda's soft ground wrestling, and he wants to do it quickly before Cody Rhodes, that dastardly Cody Rhodes, can buy them a proper wrestling ring. Cody Rhodes has been saying he wants to buy them a proper wrestling ring for their promotion, and EC3 is like, no, I want to wrestle in the mud with no ropes. You know what no ropes means, don't you, John?
No Irish whips.
No Irish whips.
Yeah, maybe these mud matches are good.
No whips into the ropes. No bouncing off the ropes. And then the duck unders and leapfrogs and drop downs and whatever and limbo things and Shane McMahon roided up at age 50-something, tearing both quads. Trying to leapfrog somebody. You know, none of that stuff. No Irish whips. If anyone has a video of EC3 actually going to Uganda and going through with a match like this with a no Irish whips soft ground wrestling mud pit match, like the kind that Steven Regal used to wrestle in as a barnstorming carny. William Regal, if you know him from his WWE, WWF days. This might be interesting. Congratulations to EC3. NWA always has a soft spot in my heart for NWA. I kind of was introduced to wrestling back when it was WWF and NWA were the two main promotions. And I remember Ric Flair. I remember not so much Dusty Rhodes that far, but I remember Ric Flair. I remember Rick Rude. Early Horseman stuff. Sting's first world title was an NWA world title, not a WCW world title. That came a little later. I remember NWA. It will always have a soft spot for me. William Corgan, better known as Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, currently owns it. All best to them. They may never reach the heights that they used to have. They may never reach the heights of WWE or even AEW in the U.S., but as long as they're around and they're a viable company, I think it's great. And EC3 is a worthy wrestler and personality to carry their world's belt. I think he's done a great job there. What do you remember about the NWA, John?
The Power Hour is really what I know about NWA.
From current NWA, yeah. So you've gotten into the current product then.
I watched a little bit of it. A while. I don't really have a lot of time to watch a third company, so I don't see it too often. But I used to watch Power Hour, and I like the throwback feel, and I like the creativity involved with just having one set of stands for like in the camera view. Like I like that studio look. You could tell it's something way different, and that's what you have to do with pro wrestling. You have to be different, right?
Got to be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to be different and do what you do better than anybody else, and make sure if it winds up being something that has an audience, there you go. You've found your niche. John, we did a very special episode of Don't Bury the Lead sometime in 2023 where you watched an AEW pay-per-view and I watched an NWA pay-per-view from the same weekend. And then we live streamed about what each of us watched. So if you are currently tuning in on Twitch or Twitter, hop on over to YouTube. If you're currently over on YouTube, hey, stay with us on our YouTube channel. Subscribe while you're there. Go into our live stream archive and go back to when, John, you and I recapped an AEW pay-per-view and an NWA pay-per-view. It must have been like a Sunday or Monday afternoon thing, almost like we're doing now.
Yeah.
It was a neat thing to do. We've only done it once, but it was interesting to me to watch. I think it may have been NWA, their anniversary special, year 70 something or other, whatever it was last year. I watched that. I believe that's when EC3 won the title from Tyrus.
Yeah, because Tyrus was their big guy.
Was their world's champion for a while. He won it in a bull rope match, an old Dusty Rhodes bull rope match. And there were other stuff in there. I believe that's when Camille lost her record-setting or modern era record-setting women's world champion title reign. And now she's apparently still in a bidding competition among wrestling companies as to where she's going to go next. But yes, that wound up being a pretty cool show. Go back into our archives there and find that. And tell us what you think in the comments there. That's a good little callback to some. We've been doing Don't Bury the Lead long enough that we have callbacks to our stuff. We're not just calling back like Cheers and Caddyshack here. We're calling back Don't Bury the Lead.
I might have to make a short video on that, Tom, on the Caddyshack and Cheers thing. That was really interesting.
There we go.
I liked it. I didn't realize that Frazier, they would throw him bad lines, and he'd have to kind of work with them.
Like straight man lines and see if like there weren't punchlines. Mm-hmm. And it was just like Ted Knight's Judge Smales character in Caddyshack. It's like we're not giving you any punchlines.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to make them funny.
Right.
It's like, it's up to you, man. It's all on you. Make them funny. Yeah, good stuff. One more thing